Hey guys, welcome back to Pen Talk, Professionals Educating Networkers. Here we have Miss Dana Stone and Mr. Andy Markham. I would like y'all to both introduce yourself. Let's start with Dana.
Well, I am Dana Stone. I am a child and adult sleep coach. I'm the owner of Rest Assured Consulting and the host of Winning at the Mom Life podcast. So I am happy to be here today.
And Andy?
Great. My name is Andy Markham. I'm with Bridgeway Conseling. My office is in Huntsville, Alabama. We also have two other locations, one in Madison and Decatur, Alabama. I've been in private practice now going on 2.5 years. Before that, 15 plus years dedicated to mental health issues with families and individuals in all of North Alabama.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So what we have is a couple of prepared questions for y'all. And Miss Cherry, you're going to start first, okay?
Hi, I'm Sherry Howe with Providence Chiropractic in Huntsville, and my question is for Dana. I have never heard of a sleep therapist before. All I know or have heard of for sleeping are prescriptions, melatonin, and drinking. What drew you to become a sleep therapist?
Okay, so first off, it's more coach than therapist. I probably don't have the education to call myself a therapist. But honestly, I used to be one of those people who thought that sleep was kind of a waste of time. And I thought, okay, I'll just sleep when I'm dead. I have too much to do right now. So, but when I had my youngest son, it was about 6 years ago. He turned 6 this week, actually. I was introduced to a whole new level of sleep deprivation. And when he was a year old, he had not slept a single night in an entire year. And if he wasn't sleeping, that meant I wasn't sleeping. So my husband travels quite a bit for his job, 2 to 3 weeks at a time, and I was working full time. I also had 2 teenagers and a toddler. I was like up to here, right? And I started to get sick. I started emotionally, physically. My marriage was on the rocks. And my teens would agree that I was like a really mean mommy. And one day I realized this is all because I'm not sleeping. And so I started looking for help, and I just started to find the world of sleep so fascinating. And I started working on certificates for infant health, infant middle sleep, all the things. And then I decided when I was working with families, so I started working as a child coach, and families would just constantly ask, well, hey, can you help me? Adults, I don't have any kids, but I do have sleep problems. Can you help me? And I thought, well, what can I do for them? And so I went back to school. I started doing adult sleep certifications. And so that's a fairly recent addition to my company. So I'm super excited that I get to kind of expand my professional repertoire and start working with adults. So that's kind of how it all went down. But I'm super excited, and the world of sleep just intrigues me. So
that's great.
Awesome. And I'm Kevin Taylor. I'm a personal trainer in the Hoover area. Andy, my first question for you, how do you view the term wellness and how it relates to your field of expertise?
Sure. So in my field, we're talking about mental health issues, but within those mental health issues, you have to understand the wholeness of the individual. Okay. So you need to, during my first meeting, initial assessment, part of those questions are, how are you sleeping? What does your appetite look like? Are you exercising? So all of this is part of wellness. And so your physical wellness, your spiritual wellness, and also emotional and mental health wellness, all of this needs to be taken in a part of treating an individual.
Excellent. All right. Question 2 from Ms. Dana.
Okay, Dana. I get 4 hours of sleep and I can still function well. Why are the guidelines so much more?
Well, that's a really great question. And some people will give me that. But okay, would you say that people come in all shapes and sizes, right? And why is there so many different shapes and sizes and people and all the things? They're so different, right? A lot of it is lifestyle and a lot of it is genetics. And so in short, if you're able to get by on 4 hours of sleep, you actually may have a sleep disorder. It's called short sleeping. So less than 1% of the population falls into this category. So while it's not entirely a negative, there's not been a whole lot of research around it, so they don't fully understand why some people can get by with a really short amount of sleep. But for most people, it's important to think about you might think that you're getting by on 4 hours of sleep, but you really might be chronically sleep deprived. The body does its best to divert resources, and it will do what it needs to do for survival. And so you might not actually be performing on your peak performance, but your body's kind of hiding it. So sleep is like one of those basic necessities, right? What are our basic necessities? Food, water, air, and sleep. Without them, you cannot function. No one can. So 4 hours, that's kind of crazy.
Awesome. Andy, so question number 2 for you.
Okay.
According to current circumstances, have you seen an increase in mental health issues due to the recent coronavirus outbreak and restrictions? And what steps could people take to maintain proper mental health under stay-at-home restrictions?
Right. And I certainly have. I've seen the best come from this as families are spending more time together. You see them, getting out and spending time, outside and playing sports or going to the parks. Those kind of things have happened. But I've also seen an increase in certainly anxiety and worry and fear, especially when we're talking about businesses shutting down and people having to stay home as they're, looking to, how they're going to pay the next month's bills and everything. How are you going to keep your business going? So I've certainly seen an increase in that. So, and part of this stress is, people have fear and worry about their own health and the health of their loved ones. I'm seeing changes in sleeping and eating patterns, difficulty sleeping and concentrating, even a worsening of chronic health issues also. So even like immune disorders that people have are starting to worsen and seeing more difficult symptoms. And then worsening of just overall mental health conditions also. And that could be also from the isolation maybe they're feeling from people, or maybe they're not able to, to reach their therapist, and maybe even a way that they had done in the past. Maybe they're having to do some like telehealth medicine with their therapist, and that could be just barriers within doing therapy. I've also seen an increase in alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs through this. So the last part of the question, the second part of the question is how they cope with the stress, right? What's the best way of coping? So one way is to take breaks from watching, reading, and listening to news stories. It's out there. They talk about it. We're talking about the doom and gloom. So take breaks from that. Just listening to it can be just upsetting to even the most people. And number 2, take care of your body. So take some deep breaths, stretch, meditate, try eating healthy, well-balanced meals, get outside, exercise regularly, getting plenty of sleep, and avoiding alcohol and drugs. Connect with other people. Find ways that connect that's going to, increase your self of belonging and decrease those feelings of isolation.
Awesome. That's a very well thought out answer. Thank you, Andy.
Yeah.
Very good.
All right. Dana, in regards to sleep training, why would someone need a personalized plan? I just go to sleep, right?
Yeah, just close your eyes, go to sleep. Doesn't that work? Just like we were talking about all the different lifestyles and genetics that make up people, what is ailing you may be very different to someone else, and different types of people are going to respond differently to different kinds of treatment. A priority might be different. You might both be suffering from the same kind of thing, but there might be a different priority that we need to address things, right? So it's kind of like a personal trainer or a nutritionist, right? Like fundamentally movement is the same, right? But you're going to do something probably very different with me than you would do for Andy, or even nutritionists, right? I'm probably going to eat a bit different diet than Cherry. So it's that same kind of thing, and really fitting it to the person, because if you make it specific to them, they're much more likely to be successful. And, you know, there's this the stat about changing too many things at one time, right? If you change one thing, you have like an 80% chance of success. If you try to change two things, it goes to like 30%. Like, it's drastic, like just introducing that second thing. And so what we really try to do is focus on one thing at a time, conquer that, and then move on to the next thing. That's going to look different for everybody.
That's a good answer. All right, Cherry.
Okay, Andy, what is the best way to de-escalate a situation in which someone is angry and may not have taken their meds?
Yeah. Well, so what, you know, the first you have to look at, like, what are we describing as anger? So is it just like they've had a bad day and they're grumpy and they're irritable? But if you're talking about someone who's maybe missed some medications, maybe that it's a mood stabilizer or something else that they've missed, you know, it's very important to understand these mood stabilizers are meant to be taken on a regular basis. You can't pick or choose when you want to take them. And if you do that, if you start missing some of this medications, the level of the medication that's in your blood system, in your system, will decrease. So you can start having changes in mood. So you start seeing up and down moods, you know, with that. You know, it's important with these medications that it takes time for it to get in your system and start seeing some changes overall. You know, we have to be very aware that, you know, if people are on and off their medications, we have to be aware that, you know, and ask questions like, are you having thoughts of harming yourself, or are you having thoughts of harming someone else? And if those answers are true, they have those thoughts, then they need to go into most of the time they need to go into the emergency room and seek professional help there, or at least seek professional help if they already have an established therapist or psychiatrist.
Thank you.
Very good. All right, Dana, last question. At this point, how does anyone begin to juggle all the life noise right now? You know, between being home all the time, working from home, as well as homeschooling, how am I able to sleep or relax with all that going on?
I thought you just closed your eyes and went to sleep, right?
I try. It doesn't work.
So I get it. Like, I have my own challenges during this time. I have a kindergarten and a first grader at home, as well as my college age daughter, my husband who relocated home during all of this. They all encroached because I already worked from home. So they like all came into my space. But typically the approach that I try to enforce is from like really optimism and positive thinking, right? This isn't going to last forever. It really isn't. But you have to control the things that you can control, right? Put boundaries in place that prioritize the things that are important to you. You know, health of the family is pretty important. That's why we're doing the things that we're doing. Right? So the health of your family is so important. You can't control the government. You can't control what other people are doing, but you can control what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Sunshine, movement, being on a routine, keeping your schedule. Those are all things that you can control. And those are important. Those are high on my list. So I know the effect that all of those things have on my sleep as well. And so it's kind of like a catch-22, right? When one of those starts to get off, everything starts to kind of spiral. And so you can kind of put yourself back into check. Sleep is actually our first defense against stress, anxiety, and sickness. So if you can put a priority around that, like, you're already ahead of the game. So that's kind of how I approach it. I hope that helps.
That did. Thank you.
All right, Andy, How do you properly navigate positive eating behaviors and potential eating disorders, especially when it comes to youth that are still mentally developing?
Yeah. Wow. So with youth and teens, we know that they're looking most of the time for their friends to learn, right? So they're really big on observational learning. And so what I would like to see, if this is becoming a problem, is the parents or the caregiver setting the example on healthy eating, setting the example of this is what we're going to eat, setting meal plans and setting times and schedules, and those caregivers going ahead and showing them that the food behaviors that they need, okay? Because if the parents or caregivers are not doing that, then they're going to go to somebody else. And you don't want them going to media. You don't want them going to their friends, learning what's healthy and what is not, how to lose weight, or what, before you know it, you're going to have them they're going to have a complete cleanse or something going on. And that's not what you want a teenager or someone who is trying to develop. You don't want them to cutting calories and nutrition out of their diets just because they want to fit in or look differently. So I think that, the parent or caregiver setting that example and teaching that the child exactly, what they need to be doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have today for our Pen Talk. Dana Stone, Andy Markham, we really appreciate you guys being here today, lending your expertise. And we're recording it in May, and May is mental health awareness. And both of your fields of expertise really go into that. So thank you so much for being here. If anyone needs to get in touch with them, there will be contact information attached. All right. So guys, thank you so much for being here.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Cherry, Dana.
Yeah, it's amazing, Andy. I think we need to hook up. I think we need to chat a little bit more because I like the things that you had to say.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.